Good morning, and welcome to the Pam and Dan Show.
Hello.
This week is a big one for me because it's all about knowing your fats. And I have learned through DNA testing that I don't metabolize and burn fat very easily, and some of you on the show may have a similar issue. So I really need to watch my fats, and I really need to know my fats. So Dan, educate us on this, okay? It's a hot topic.
Well, I don't know if anyone heard of the Pam Scam, but the Pam Scam, no, not this Pam, but the Pam spray, the cooking oil spray that you can use if you're sauteing or if you're about to roast some vegetables. What they say on the front of the Pam spray can is fat-free cooking. And just below it, they say 100% olive oil or 100% canola oil or whichever type of oil that you have on the Pam. But
On the Pam?
on the Pam.
On the Pam or
The
on
Pam
the pan?
spray.
We have an example here. This isn't Pam spray, but this is just avocado oil spray. And
Right.
But this is what it says. If you look on the back, it will say total fat zero.
Zero.
0 grams.
And the reason for that is they play with the label. So the FDA requires foods that come in jars, bottles, bags, or cans to tell you what's in the product, but also to break down what types of, if there's calories, if there's salt, sodium, whatever it is. But they have rules such that if there is less than a half a gram of fat in one serving, then they can list that as zero. So with Pam or even this avocado spray, it says that there's zero amount of calories from fat because the serving size is 1/3 of a second.
How are you possibly going to do a third of a second?
I mean,
I
that's
dare
like-
you to do a third of a second spray.
Yeah,
It's
that's like 1
impossible.
second. I mean, that's like 3 times the amount. If you just go, but most of us, we have our pan and we want to put some oil on it. We go, that's about 20 to 30 times more than a serving size. So it's way over the half a gram of fat. So yes, there is no such thing as zero fat or 0 calories when you're using fat. Fat, one of the 3 macronutrients, proteins 1, carbohydrates 2, and then fats 3. Fats are the highest caloric density. There's 9 calories per gram in fats versus proteins and carbohydrates that have just 4 calories per gram. So more than twice the amount of caloric density in fats. So even if you're going to use healthy fats, fats are still fat. And they still come with the burden of a lot of calories.
Well, here's the thing: is that these marketing terms, healthy fat.
Right.
I wish that they would be required to say something like healthier, maybe healthier than, fats, saturated fats that come from animal products, right? So that would be, or health promoting. I mean, is this, Dan, health promoting? In other words, if I put this on my pan before I cook my meal, am I actually promoting my health? Am I actually going to be healthier than if I didn't have it?
No, not really. Again,
I didn't think so.
Just like we've said before, those 6 great words about eating mostly plants and not much.
Yeah.
You
Eat food, mostly plants,
and not much. Again, fat falls into that not much.
Yeah.
We don't need a lot of fats. Yes, we do need some fats, and some are essential. There are some fats like the omega-3 fatty acids, which our bodies can't make. And if we can't make them, that means we have to consume them. So yes, there are some fats that we have to. But as far as other fats, like many of the mono and polyunsaturated fats that we get from mostly plants, then those fats are really not necessary in our diet in any great quantities. And then saturated fats.
What would be examples of those?
like polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats are plant-based fats that you would find in avocado, for example, that we just showed. Those are heavy in monounsaturated fats.
So these are good.
Those are better, but they're still calorically dense.
Okay.
Because they have a lot of those monounsaturated fats, and nuts and seeds are another great example of polyunsaturated fats. Like peanuts, a legume, has a lot of polyunsaturated fats, but they don't travel alone. Even some of your better fats, like olive oil, which we know has a great history. For generations, people have been using olive oil in their cooking, and those people that use it often and use it as their oil of choice do have healthier lives. The Mediterranean diet, which features olive oil, even up to 6 tablespoons a day in some studies, have shown that it doesn't alter any of the morbidity and mortality, any of the cases where, or any of the mortality, the death rates of those people in the studies. So even though you have foods like olive oil, which are quote unquote, like you said, healthy fats, it's healthier than other fat choices that you might make, like saturated fats, like butter, for example, or lard, for example. You know, animal products like that chicken or beef fat, pork fat. Those are the types of fats, animal fats, that come with a lot of baggage. One, they're saturated fats, and two, they're heavy on the omega-6 saturated fats. I mean, omega-3s we know are healthy, but omega-3s don't travel alone. Many times they come with omega-6s or even saturated fat. People know that salmon is a great choice when choosing animal products because it's so high in omega-3s. Likely the highest in all animals that have omega-3s. However, it still comes with saturated fat and cholesterol and omega-6s too, even though you're getting that good dose of omega-3s. The other big one is coconut oil. There's so much we hear. The controversy about whether coconut oil is healthy or not all stems around the types of fats that you can find in coconut oil and even other tropical oils like palm oil or kernel oil. Those types of oils that come from the tropics, like coconut oil, have these shorter chains, what we call medium chain fatty acids. They have, the number of carbons that they have to make up the acid, to make up the fat, are just a little shorter. They're medium size. Those medium size triglycerides or medium size fatty acids can be used by our body as fuel, by our heart, so people perform better, whether they're dancing or athletic or doing activities. It fuels our brain. Our brain can use it as fuel so that we have better cognition and we have more energy and we feel more alert. However, again, coconut oil is only 17% of those medium chain triglycerides, those MCTs. 17%. The other 83% are saturated fats. And unfortunately, those saturated fats are the ones that are very similar. The palmitic fats, the stearic acid fats, just like the ones that are in beef, pork, chicken, that cause so many problems with cardiovascular disease, elevating your bad cholesterol, your LDL, and increasing your risk for cardiovascular disease, because those lipoproteins or those cholesterol products are the #1 risk factor for cardiovascular disease, the #1 killer of men and women in all the world.
So you want to really watch how much of that even plant-based saturated fat that you're taking in, or using. I mean, not only for weight gain, me guilty of
and
that
for everybody,
when but also just for heart health. And and so you again, you've got to know your fats, and you've got to know what is actually heart promoting or heart defeating or healthy promoting or healthy defeating. And just be careful of all that marketing that's out there.
Right.
And so
just because it has one type of fat in it doesn't mean that's the only kind of fat that's in it. That's one of the biggest messages that we can tell you is when you know your fats, even though there are better choices than others, they all tend to travel together. Even that olive oil. And when you choose olive oil, and I just have this because this is one of the types that we like to use, you can see it comes in glass, it comes in a dark container because it oxidizes with light.
Okay.
But also, it's extra virgin, and extra virgin just means it's processed less.
Oh.
It's been, not refined so much that it is a process and has all the good nutrients, the antioxidants and flavors even that are found in the olive oil taken out of it. And cold pressed is also what we like too, because that's, again, less processed. The other way they process olive oils with heat, and that heat can also damage that olive oil or take out those antioxidants. So you're looking for extra virgin olive oil and cold pressed olive oil. And the last thing I can tell you, besides the glass and the colored bottle, is it should be dated as to when it was pressed, because it should be consumed as soon as possible. It almost makes no sense if you don't use a lot of oil to buy big containers of olive oil because it gets oxidized so easily. You want to consume it and then go buy another one. So look for the date, consume it within the first few months, 3 to 5 months is like the best, and you'll get the best advantage of olive oil. But even when you know a lot about olive oil, like I said, and it's had it's been around for generations and tried and true, it's still a mixture of oils. Yes, there are some omega-6s in olive oil. Yes, there are some of the really good omega-3s in olive oil. And again, mostly in olive oil, it's the neutral omega-9s, the types of saturated fats that are just neutral, that don't affect our heart disease, won't affect our inflammation.
So
That's all.
so how do you know, like, is it a particular brand, or are you just looking for the extra virgin olive oil, cold pressed, glass bottle, dark container?
And dated. I mean,
Dated,
those are the
used.
big things that we, that we, not used by, but when was it pressed? That's what you want to know.
Okay.
And so this is just a brand that we like, but there are lots of
Is
good
the
brands.
date of when it's pressed right on the bottle?
Yes, it's usually right on the back.
Okay,
It tells
great.
you, for us,
Perfect.
right on the back
Excellent.
for this brand.
Great. Yeah, I mean, we used to buy those giant containers of olive oil in a plastic bottle, and it would take a long, long time to use. And so I'm glad that you learned that, and now we're doing things differently and better. But also a couple of tips that I have found work really well for reducing my fat intake, even though it's better fat that I'm eating, is one thing is I tend to not use oil while I'm cooking.
Right.
Okay? Because if I'm going to make, for example, like a stir fry, right? Then I'll just stir fry the vegetables in either water, or I can do a little bit of white wine, or I could even do some broth, some veggie broth, or even spray it with some amino acids, just to coat it so that it will more evenly cook, whether I'm cooking it in my air fryer or right on a pan on top of the stove. And so I'm a little bit more in control of the oil that I'm using. So I've already, eliminated the oil while I'm cooking, because you know what? Some oil may come in on the sauce or the gravy or something that's on top of the meal. And so, I don't want to double it up on the oils. I'm already behind the 8 ball. If I've cooked with oil, now maybe I'm adding some nuts and seeds to the top of my meal, or maybe an oil-based or some dressing or gravy that has oil in it. And so now I've doubled and tripled all of that fat.
Which just drives the calories up.
Exactly. And if maybe for an appetizer I had some guacamole, with some healthier chips or some veggies, again, now at the end of the meal, I've doubled and tripled up on all of that fat. So eliminate it or reduce it where you can, and you will be much better off. And be that experiment of one. Again, I am a person who that fat, it just sticks to the hips. And That's just the way it is. So I really need to pay attention. But most people I find really do too.
Yes.
And again, especially if you're for weight gain, just do a little bit of a measurement on your waist and then your hip, and then take 2 weeks to eliminate or really heavily reduce your fat intake, and then do it again, and you'll see it go down. You'll see a difference.
I'm sure.
Dan, do you have a resource for them on, look at the people that showed up here today on the show. This is amazing. This is great.
There are so many great resources that we have. And the book that we talked about earlier, the David Katz and Mark Bittman book,
that's a great
What
book.
to Eat,
Yeah.
is a great resource on all different kinds of foods, how we should look at our nutrition plans.
Yeah.
But I also just like with David Katz and Mark Bittman, I like to make sure I'm getting good resources, not just any resource.
Okay.
I like to go for the guys that are the gurus, and that are well established.
Guys and gals.
Yeah, the people that are the gurus in their field. And there isn't anybody more of a guru than Walter Willett.
Yes.
Walter Willett is the chair of nutrition at the Harvard School of Public Health,
Okay.
the T.H. Chan School of Nutrition at the Harvard School of Public Health. And he's been there for a couple of decades now, publishing more papers than most physicians or scientists have ever read. I think he's up to about 1,800 or 1,900 peer-reviewed publications, and I don't know how many books, 10 or 11 books that he has written, but this was one of his first, and this was written, I think, back around the turn of the century, somewhere around 2003, 2004. Eat, drink, and be healthy. Why I like it is it goes over everything about eating, drinking, and being healthy, and what the science shows about what foods are good for us. And there's a chapter in here about surprising news about fats. Right. Surprising news about fats. Goes over it very simply for lay people. This book isn't written for doctors. It's written for everybody to understand. But what happened when he published this book is it wasn't selling. Eat,
Why?
drink, and be healthy. Who really wants to be healthy? When we eat and drink, we want to enjoy ourselves. So he came out, and it's relatively the same book with the same information, with Eat, Drink, and Weigh Less, and it was a #1 bestseller.
Weight loss
When you're talking
sells.
weight loss, that's right, it sells. So either one of these publications have great chapters on fats. Say yes to good fats. And he goes over, just like we have been explaining, what types of fats there are out there, what make them good, what make them bad, what make them better than others, and how you can incorporate them into your meal plans.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you for showing up today live. Thank you also if you're watching the replay. It's fantastic. This will sit right here in the Facebook group. And also know that these shows, the Pam and Dan show, are also on Dan's YouTube channel, which you can find at Daniel Wachowski, MD. And you can subscribe to that channel so that you don't miss any of the updates. We'll have other things that we'll be posting on that channel as well. And we'll see you next week.
One of the things, know your fats.
Know your fats.
If you want to follow the nutrition principles, one of the best principles is to know your fats.
There you go. All right. See you next week.